You have been hypnotized by a phantom, completely enslaved by an idea that does not exist. You are waiting for a life that is never coming, projecting all fulfillment, all peace, all attainment onto a distant horizon called tomorrow. I am here to tell you with absolute conviction, there is no tomorrow. There is only this eternal, indestructible, and completely available moment of now. All your anxiety, your longing, your sense of lack springs from this one illusion that time is real and that your good lies within it. We are not moving toward a spiritual life. We are, this instant, immersed in the only reality there is. If this shocks you, if it stirs a protest within, then you are ready. You are ready to stop chasing shadows and to turn. In this encounter, you will discover why you have never been separate from what you seek, and how the relinquishment of this single lie unveils the infinite present where your true being lies. Consider for a moment the architecture of your entire life. From childhood, you were taught to plan, to build, to strive for a future goal. Your education pointed toward a career, your savings toward a retirement, your spiritual practice toward a future state of grace. The very language of hope and fear is built upon this linear track. One day I will be happy. Soon this problem will be over. When I achieve this, then I will have peace. This framework is so deeply embedded in our consciousness that to question it feels like questioning the ground beneath our feet. Yet, this is the very phantom we must examine. This universal, unquestioned agreement we call time, this relentless procession of yesterdays, todays, and tomorrows that we believe contains our life. But what if this framework is the central illusion, not the chronological sequence of events, not the practical ordering of our daily affairs, but the profound belief that our essential being, our spirit, is contained within or progresses along this line? We have transferred the authority of the eternal onto a calendar. We believe fulfillment is a destination. We live in a state of constant mental postponement, imagining that our wholeness, our completion, awaits us at a point we label tomorrow. Yet, where is this tomorrow? When you arrive at what you called tomorrow, it is instantly transformed into today, and the goal, the peace, the fulfillment you sought, is once again projected onto a new horizon. You are chasing a shadow that forever recedes. This is the hypnotic trance. You are running on a treadmill of time, expending immense energy, believing you are moving toward a spiritual reality, when all the while you are forever leaving the only point where it can be found, this instant. See how this phantom operates in the minutiae of your day. You are in conversation, but your mind is rehearsing what you will say tomorrow in a meeting. You are walking in the park, but your inner world is anxiously living a yesterday's mistake. You are sitting in meditation, but the effort is focused on achieving a future state of calm. In every case, you are absent from where you are. You have abandoned the present moment, the only real territory of experience, for a mental fantasy of past or future. The anxiety you feel is not about the present moment itself, for in the pure present, There is only what is. But about the story of a threatening future your mind is spinning. The regret you feel is not here, but is a ghost of a past moment you are haunting. Your daily suffering, then, is not caused by life, but by this allegiance to the phantom. You are choosing to live in a mirage and then wondering why you feel thirsty. This illusion of time is the great postponer of life. It allows you to tolerate a joyless job, a loveless relationship, a neglected inner call, because the phantom whispers, not now, but later. Endure this for a future reward. It convinces you that your spiritual work is a gradual accumulation of wisdom, like filling a bucket drop by drop, always implying you are not yet full, not yet ready, not yet there. This is the cruelest trick of the illusion, for it places your divinity, your completeness, always out of reach. It makes God a future experience. But the eternal, by its very nature, cannot be in time. That which is timeless cannot be approached through duration. You cannot journey to where you already are. The startling truth, the one that shatters the trance, is that time, as a psychological reality, is a creation of thought. It is the mind's mechanism for organizing memory and anticipation. But you are not your mind. Your being, the very awareness reading these words, does not reside in yesterday or tomorrow. It is the unchanging screen upon which the pictures of past and future are projected. Can the screen be harmed by a scary image from yesterday's film? Can it be enriched by a promise in tomorrow's preview? The screen simply is. It is present, available, and untouched by the stories that play upon it. Your true identity is that screen, the silent, ever-present awareness, not the dramatic movie of your life, story stretched across time. Therefore, to be free from the tyranny of the phantom is not to ignore your practical responsibilities or live in chaos. It is to shift the very seat of your identity. It is to stop believing you are the character in the movie, desperately trying to rewrite past scenes and control future ones, and to realize you are the aware space in which the entire movie appears. From that standpoint, you handle the necessities of sequence. You keep appointments, you learn from memory, you plan a garden, but you are no longer imprisoned in the narrative. You do these things from the fullness of the present, not from the emptiness of an imagined future. The pressure evaporates. The anxiety of not enough time dissolves when you realize you are not in time. You are the timeless, momentarily wearing a watch. This realization does not come tomorrow. It does not come after long struggle. It comes in the instant you see the phantom for what it is, a useful fiction you have mistaken for your home. And in that seeing, you wake up. You are already here. And so, where does this leave us when the phantom of tomorrow vanishes? Not in a void, not in some blank emptiness, but face to face with a startling and often misunderstood reality, the eternal now. This is not merely today, not this hour, not this fleeting minute, as opposed to a past or future one. Those are still fragments of the time illusion. The eternal now is of an entirely different dimension. It is the ever-present, ever-available backdrop of all experience, the very substance of existence itself. It is the continuous, uninterrupted presence in which the appearance of moments, days, and years unfolds. You have never been outside of it, not for one instant. All of your life, every joy, every sorrow, every mundane task, has occurred within this indivisible presence. You have simply been so captivated by the pictures moving across the screen that you forgot the screen itself, constant, silent, and whole. To touch this is to feel the solid ground of being for the first time. Consider an everyday moment stripped of its story. You are washing a dish. Feel the warmth of the water on your skin. See the play of light on the soap bubbles. Hear the clink of ceramic. In that simple, direct experiencing, where is yesterday's argument? Where is tomorrow's deadline? They are not here. They are thoughts. About here. But they are not the tangible reality of the warm water. The smooth plate, the eternal now, is that field of pure sensation and awareness before the mind labels it, judges it, or connects it to a narrative of past and future. It is the vivid aliveness prior to commentary. That aliveness is not in time, it is what time appears within. The taste of cool water on a thirsty tongue is an eternal phenomenon. It is always now when it is experienced. We often confuse this with a passive or indifferent state, a kind of spiritual stagnation. Nothing could be further from the truth. The eternal now is the most dynamic reality conceivable, for it is the very source of creativity, of genuine action, of spontaneous intelligence. All truly new things, an inspired idea, a flash of compassion, a solution that seems to arrive from nowhere, emerge from this space, not from the calculated projections of the time-bound mind. The mind rearranges the known. The now brings forth the unknown. An artist lost in the flow of creation is not thinking about the painting of yesterday or the exhibition of tomorrow. He or she is completely immersed in the now, and from that immersion, something original is born. A mother comforting her child in the middle of the night acts from the immediacy of the now, not from a remembered chapter in a parenting manual. This is intelligence functioning without the intermediary of time. Your greatest suffering, then, is the resistance to this permanent availability. You stand like a person dying of thirst on the bank of a mighty river, yet refusing to drink because you are obsessed with the memory of a dried, upstream, or are anxiously planning how to bottle water for a future desert. The river is here. It is always here. Your mental life is a constant negotiation with mirages, while the reality of being, complete, sufficient, and alive, flows ceaselessly at your feet. The peace you seek in a future vacation is the same peace that can be felt in the space between two thoughts while waiting for a traffic light to change. If you would only cease the mental commentary about being late. The love you hope a future relationship will bring is the same love that can be felt as a warmth in the chest when you fully receive the sight of a tree against the sky. Because that love is the very fabric of your connection to existence, not a transaction between two personalities. To abide here requires no long journey, for you are already at the destination. It requires only a shift of attention, a gentle but firm recalling of awareness from its wanderings in the phantom lands. It is the practice of noticing when you have left. You are planning your dinner and a wave of anxiety about a work conflict sweeps in. Notice it. That anxiety is not about the present activity of planning dinner. It is a thought, invader from a fictional future. Simply see it as such. In that seeing, without even trying to push it away, you have already returned your attention to the ground from which the thought arose. The now? The thought may linger, but you are no longer fully identified with it. You are the space aware of it. This is not a one-time achievement, but a continuous, gentle return, like a bird coming back to its perch. Each return is a deepening realization that this now is not a small, cramped cell between a vast past and an infinite future. It is, in fact, boundless. It has no edges. It contains all that is real. The memory of a childhood home arises now. The anticipation of a meeting occurs now. Even the thought of time itself is a present moment event. Everything, every sensation, emotion, and thought happens within this expansive, timeless present. You are not stepping into a new place. You are finally becoming aware of the immensity of the place where you have always stood. The phantom of time made your world a narrow corridor. Seeing through it, the walls dissolve, and you find yourself under the open sky of the eternal, where life is not a problem to be solved in the future, but a mystery to be lived fully in this undeniable, ever fresh instant. This brings us to the very heart of the human dilemma, the engine of our unease. If the eternal now is our native state, boundless and whole, why does life so often feel like a tight knot of suffering? The answer is not found in the circumstances of your life, but in the mechanics of your own attention. Suffering is not an event. It is your relationship to the event, a relationship entirely orchestrated by the phantom of time. It is the tax you pay for living in a mental world of past and future, for believing the stories your mind spins about loss that has happened or danger that may come. Your pain, your anxiety, your loneliness. These are not present moment experiences. They are ghosts. They are the residual energy of a remembered yesterday or the projected shadow of a feared tomorrow haunting the pristine space of the now. Look closely at any moment of distress. You receive a troubling email. The raw data of the experience is simple shapes on a screen, a feeling of bodily tension perhaps. But instantly, the time-bound mind is activated. It projects a future. This means more work, a difficult conversation, a potential failure. It resurrects the past. This always happens to me. I never get a break, just like last time. In a flash, you are no longer in your chair reading an email. You are mentally living in a stressful future scenario and feeling the wounds of an edited past. The suffering is the friction between what is, the simple fact of the email, and the mental movie of what was or what might be. You are suffering an illusion, defending yourself against a threat that is not actually present, grieving a loss that is not occurring now. The mind, believing itself to be your protector, is actually your torturer, dragging you through imagined hells. This is the great irony. Your mind, trying to secure a better future or correct a painful past, is the very instrument that blinds you to the resources and peace available only in the present. A mother lying awake at 3 a.m. is not suffering her child sleeping safely in the next room. She is suffering the thought of a potential illness, a future struggle, a past mistake, all phantoms dancing in the dark. The actual moment contains only the sound of silence, the feel of sheets, the rhythm of her own breath. But she has traded that tangible reality for a terrifying story. Her suffering is the price of that trade. We do this constantly. The dull ache of loneliness is not the absence of people in the room with you now. It is the memory of a past separation or the fear of a future alone. The sensation itself, if met directly without the story, might simply be a hollow feeling in the chest, a physical sensation that comes and goes. But we drown it in a narrative of time, and in doing so, we magnify a momentary sensation into a lifelong condition. Even what we call boredom is a form of this suffering. Boredom is the mind's complaint that the present moment is not sufficiently entertaining, not compared to the remembered thrill of yesterday or the anticipated pleasure of tomorrow. A teenager sighs. There's nothing to do, while surrounded by a universe of possibility. Books, instruments, sky, their own breath. Their suffering is the rejection of the now in favor of a mental ideal of excitement. The mind, addicted to stimulation and narrative, rejects the profound simplicity of being. This rejection is the root of our compulsive behavior, scrolling through screens, seeking novelty, overworking. All attempts to escape the perceived poverty of the present moment, which feels empty only because we are looking at it through the lens of time, comparing it to a fantasy. Therefore, the cause of suffering is not life's inevitable changes, but your allegiance to the continuity of a me that is harmed by those changes. This me is a collection of memories, a story of a person who was hurt, who lacks, who might fail. It is a character built entirely from the past and projected into the future. To protect this fragile story, you resist the flow of the now. You cling to a pleasant experience, wishing to make it permanent, which is impossible, and so you suffer when it passes. You resist an unpleasant experience, wishing to deny its present reality, and so you create inner conflict. All suffering is a form of resistance to what is, and this resistance is always based on the belief that something else, something from the past or future, should be happening instead. You argue with reality, and you always lose. But see the profound hope in this discovery. If suffering is caused by your own mental activity, by the projection of the phantom, then it is within your power to cease creating it. This does not mean you will not feel physical pain or the raw, immediate pang of loss. These are part of the human experience. But you need not compound that pain with the secondary layer of mental storytelling that turns a clean grief into a prolonged depression, or a physical sensation into a narrative of terminal illness. The pain that is here now is bearable. It is the story about the pain that is unbearable. When you stub your toe, the initial flash of pain is pure sensation. The suffering begins with the thought, "Oh, not again. Why does this always happen to me? Now my whole day is ruined." That is the phantom at work. To be free is to feel the sensation without buying the story. It is to meet the present condition, be it an empty room, a difficult diagnosis, or a personal failure, directly, without the filter of time. In that meeting, you find a strength and a clarity that the time-bound me could never access, for you are no longer a victim of your own history and imagination, but are finally present with what is, and in that presence, a mysterious alchemy begins. This, then, is the critical turning point. Knowing the phantom exists is not freedom. Understanding the theory of the eternal now is not liberation. The transition from suffering to peace hinges on a single, practical, and often misunderstood act, the relinquishment of the phantom. This is not a dramatic battle, not a forceful suppression of thought, nor is it a passive resignation to fate. It is something far more subtle and powerful. It is the withdrawal of your belief, your investment, your very identity from the storyline of time. You stop arguing for your limitations. You cease feeding the mental images of past injury and future worry with the energy of your attention. You let the story be without living inside it. Relinquishment is first and foremost an act of recognition. You catch yourself in the act of building a phantom. You are driving to work, and the mind is rehearsing a difficult conversation scheduled for this afternoon. You feel the familiar clutch of anxiety in your stomach. In that moment, you have a choice. The old way is to follow the thread, to elaborate the scene, to defend your position in the imaginary argument, to feel the anger or fear as if it were real. This is feeding the phantom. The new way is simply to see the mechanism at work, to inwardly note, "Ah, here it is. Here is the mind creating a future that does not exist. That is all. Do not condemn it. Do not try to make it stop. Just see it." In that clear, gentle seeing, a space opens. The thought may continue, but you are no longer fused with it. You have, in that instant, relinquished your identification with it. You have taken your stand as the awareness watching the thought, not the character in the thought's drama. This practice is the essence of spiritual work. It is not done on a meditation cushion alone, though that is valuable training. It is done in the marketplace of your daily life. Your partner says something with a sharp tone. The old hurt, the story of "they always disrespect me," instantly rises. This is the phantom of the past rushing in to interpret the present. Relinquishment is to feel the sting, to notice the story arising, and to consciously choose not to follow it down its well-worn path. It is to stay with the raw sensation, the heat in your face, the tightness in your chest, without the commentary. In that space, a miracle can occur. You might respond not from the automated past, but from the intelligence of the now. Perhaps you simply say, "That felt sharp," stating the present moment reality instead of launching an accusation from history. The entire dynamic shifts because you are no longer being run by the phantom. Relinquishing the phantom also means surrendering the deeply cherished story of your personal spiritual progress. This is a subtle trap. You think, I am getting better. Yesterday I was anxious for an hour, today only for 50 minutes. Soon I will achieve peace. This is the phantom co-opting your spirituality, turning it into a future achievement. True relinquishment is to drop even that story. Peace is not an attainment. It is the natural state when the noisy phantom is not believed. You cannot get what you already are. So you stop trying to become peaceful, and instead, in each moment, you relinquish the thought that is disturbing the peace that is already here. You are not building a new self. You are uncovering the self that was always present beneath the noise. Consider the common experience of insomnia. You lie in bed, and the mind races with the problems of tomorrow. The more you try to force sleep, the more you fight the thoughts, the more powerful they become. Relinquishment is the opposite. It is to let the thoughts be, to stop fighting them, to even say inwardly, all right, think all you want. I am just here, resting in this bed. In that total surrender of the struggle, the thoughts often lose their frantic energy. They may continue, but they become like background noise. And in that space of non-resistance, sleep can gently come. You did not achieve sleep. You relinquished the one who was trying to achieve it. This is the secret. You are not the problem solver. The personal you, the one crafted by time, is itself the core of the problem. Every attempt it makes to fix itself only reinforces its own reality. Relinquishment is the end of that self-improvement project. It is the profound, often frightening, decision to stop trying to steer the ship and instead to discover that you are the ocean upon which the ship appears. The anxieties about money, about health, about relationships, they are all phantoms appearing on the screen of your awareness. To relinquish them is not to become irresponsible. It is to shift the source of your action. No longer acting from fear of a phantom future, you begin to act from the clarity and immediacy of the now. Guidance then comes not as a calculated plan, but as an intuitive knowing, a next step that becomes obvious when the mental static dies down. You pay the bills not from a looming anxiety of lack, but from the simple present moment fact that they are due, and the action arises from a sense of natural movement, not dread. This is the fruit of relinquishment, a life lived not as a reaction to ghosts, but as a spontaneous, intelligent, and surprisingly effortless response to what is actually here, right now, in this undeniable and forever new present. So what remains when the phantom of time is relinquished, when the stories of past and future lose their grip on your attention? You are left not with a void, but with what has always been underneath, the present reality. This is not a concept or a spiritual ideal. It is the tangible, undeniable substance of this very instant, once it is stripped of commentary and fear. It is the world seen without the filter of the mind's interpretations. Most of us live in a world of labels and memories. We see a tree and think, "Oh, oak. Remember sitting under one as a child," or note that it needs pruning. The present reality is the direct experience of the tree before those thoughts arise. The intricate pattern of light and shadow on its bark, the sheer presence of its towering form, the silent energy of its aliveness. This is the world as it actually is, not as you think about it. And you are not a separate observer looking at it. You are the awareness in which the tree and the seeing arise as one seamless event. This reality is fiercely immediate and abundantly rich. Think of the last time you were truly shocked. You heard sudden loud noise, or you narrowly avoided a fall. In that split second, what happened? All thought stopped. There was no past, no future. There was only pure, vivid presence, a total engagement with what was happening. And in that flash, you were completely alive, completely whole, and curiously, without fear. Fear came a moment later with the thought. That was close. The present reality is that state of shock without the shock, that total aliveness without the emergency. It is the crispness of cold air on your face during a morning walk, felt so directly that for a moment there is no you feeling it, just the feeling itself. It is the weight of a cup in your hand, the sound of rain as pure sound, the exhaustion in your body after honest work as a simple sensation, not a complaint. This is the texture of your actual life, once the phantom's narrative is quieted. To live from this reality is to discover an unshakable foundation. All your seeking has been for safety, for love, for permanence. You sought these in future achievements, in past relationships, in accumulating possessions or status. But these are all objects that appear and disappear within time. They cannot provide what you seek, because what you seek is the very ground from which you are seeking. The present reality is that ground. It is the safety of simply being prior to any threat. It is the love that is the connectedness of all things prior to any relationship. It is the permanence of the timeless now itself. When you stand here, the ups and downs of life continue. The joys, the losses, the challenges, but they no longer define you. They are like weather patterns moving across the sky of your awareness. The sky remains untouched by the storm or the sunshine. A financial loss occurs. The time-bound mind screams of future poverty and resurrects past mistakes. But from the standpoint of present reality, there is simply the fact of the situation, the numbers on a page, the necessary adjustments to be made. The emotional tsunami is seen for what it is, a phantom storm. You deal with the facts from a place of clarity, not panic. This transforms your entire relationship with experience. A pain arises in your body. The old habit is to instantly create a story. This is terrible. What if it gets worse? What did I do to cause this? This story is a prison of suffering built around a simple sensation. The present reality is just the sensation itself, its location, its quality, its intensity. Meeting it as pure sensation without the story, you may find a space around it. The sensation might even change when it is not fed with fearful resistance. You are not denying the pain. You are meeting it in its reality, not in the phantom's frightening interpretation of it. The same applies to emotional pain. The H of grief, when allowed to be a pure, present, moment experience without the story of, I have lost forever, has a cleansing, honest quality to it. It is a deep wave of love with no object. It is real. The suffering is the story of absence, which is a thought, a phantom. Engaging with this reality is the most practical thing you can do. You are faced with a complex problem at work. The mind, lost in the phantom realm, cycles through anxiety about failure, memories of past criticisms, and frantic, scattered attempts to find a solution. It is exhausted and unproductive. To turn to the present reality is to stop, to feel your feet on the floor, to take a deep breath and behold the problem itself right now, as if for the first time. In that stillness, freed from the noise of past and future, an insight often emerges. A new angle presents itself. This is the intelligence of the now, which operates not by linear logic, but by spontaneous seeing. A musician doesn't think about the next note while playing. The note arises from the fullness of the present moment within the flow of the music. Your life can begin to function with that same effortless, creative intelligence when you are grounded in what is actually here rather than lost in what is not. The present reality is not a retreat from life. It is the only way to fully meet it, to engage with it creatively, and to discover that within this moment, every resource you have ever sought is already, quietly, waiting. And so we arrive at the natural conclusion, the inevitable flowering of this understanding, the immediate availability of good. This is not a promise of future reward, not a belief that positive events will now magically populate your calendar. It is a radical recognition of the present moment's inherent and complete sufficiency. Good, in its truest sense, is not an object, a condition, or an emotional high. It is the very nature of reality itself when it is perceived without the distortion of lack. It is the fundamental is-ness of this instant, and it is immediately available because it is what you already are. You have been searching for a drink of water while submerged in the ocean. See how the phantom of time has disguised this. You believe good is contingent. I will be happy when I have more money, when I find a partner, when I achieve that goal. This makes good a prisoner of tomorrow, a hostage to conditions. But what is the actual experience of happiness? It is a feeling that arises now. It is a certain openness, a lightness in the chest, a quiet joy. Can you not, in this very moment, put aside all thought of past and future and simply notice if there is any space within you that is not in conflict? Is there a breath coming in and going out without your effort? Is there awareness that is simply present, reading these words? That awareness, that aliveness, is the substrate of all good. It is the canvas upon which both joy and sorrow are painted, but the canvas itself is pristine, whole, and entirely good. The immediate availability is the availability of this canvas right now, regardless of what picture is currently on it. Consider the most ordinary moments. You are stuck in traffic. The phantom mind churns with frustration about being late, rehearsing excuses, radiating tension. The good seems utterly absent. But the immediate availability is found in the relinquishment of that story. You look out the window. You see the way sunlight glints off the bumper of the car ahead. You notice the color of the sky. You feel the simple fact of being seated, of being alive. None of these things require the traffic to change. They are elements of the present reality, and their intrinsic aliveness, when attended to, carries a quiet sense of good, not as excitement, but as a profound okayness. The good was never missing. Your attention was simply captivated by a story of lack. A mother, exhausted at the end of the day, finally sits down in a quiet room. The mind wants to replay the day's stresses and plan for tomorrow's chores, making the weariness feel like a burden. But if she lets all that go and simply feels the weariness itself as a pure sensation, the weight of her body in the chair, the silence around her, she may touch a deep, nourishing peace within that exhaustion. That peace is the immediately available good, shining through the temporary condition of tiredness. This good is not passive. It is the source of all true action and creativity. When you act from a sense of present, moment fullness, your actions have a different quality. You prepare a meal not as a chore to get through, but from the fullness of attention to the colors of the vegetables, the scent of herbs, the warmth of the stove. The meal becomes an expression of the good, not a means to it. You engage in your work, not from a frantic need to prove yourself for a future promotion, but from the immediate engagement with the task itself, and in that flow, excellence arises naturally. This is why the greatest artists and innovators speak of being in the zone, a state where the anxious, time-bound self dissolves, and action pours forth from the infinite resource of the now. The idea, the solution, the beautiful stroke, is immediately available when the mind stops searching for it in the past or future. This availability also transforms your understanding of lack. You feel a sense of loneliness. The phantom interprets this as evidence of a fundamental absence of love in your life, pointing to an empty past and a fearful future. But if you dare to turn your attention directly to the feeling of loneliness itself, to dwell in the sensation without the story, something shifts. You may discover that the raw, aching feeling is, in its core, a deep longing for union, and that very longing is itself a powerful form of love, present right now. It is not the absence of good, but a poignant expression of it. By meeting it fully, you are paradoxically intimate with the love you seek. The nourishment comes not from the arrival of another person in the future, but from the courageous embrace of the present moment reality. The love was immediately available as your own capacity to feel deeply. Therefore, the journey ends where it began, but with seeing. You are not moving toward a distant spiritual victory. You are waking up to the fact that the kingdom, the harmony, the wholeness you seek is already established, not as a future condition, but as the very ground of your being in this instant. Your only task is to cease denying it through your allegiance to the phantom. The moment you realize you are hungry for what is already on your plate, the seeking stops. And in that cessation, in that simple, unadorned attention to what is, the sound in the room, the feeling in your body, the awareness that holds it all, you make contact with the infinite resource. It is here. It has always been here. It is the quiet hum of existence prior to any problem, the spacious peace that requires no achievement, the boundless good that asks only for your recognition. You need not wait another second. The entire treasure of life is spread before you, not in the objects you perceive, but in the perceiving itself, fresh, alive, and complete.